Hello, and welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor podcast. My name is Assistant Dragon Slayer. My co-host is Kemper Boyd.
Hello.
Hello. So, at the risk of making a reference that a Brit won't get and half of our listeners won't get either, who are we? What are we doing here?
Yeah, didn't get it. Don't, no.
Okay. Anyway, we are here to talk about...
Sorry, shit. This is going so well already. I've sworn. We're here to talk about Survivor South Africa and why you should watch it.
Yes. Okay. So, Survivor South Africa premieres May 16th. And if I counted the time zones correctly, it actually starts like 17 hours after the end of the finale for Edge of Extinction. And coincidence? Probably not. So, why should we watch, having gone through Edge of Extinction, why should people watch Survivor South Africa Island of Secrets?
Firstly, Island of Secrets. That is, and of all of that is an insane name. What does it mean? We don't know. This is like Ghost Island, but more exciting. Because, like, Ghost Island could have meant anything, but we knew it just was sort of twists. But Island of Secrets could mean literally anything.
Yeah. And also, if anybody watched 2018 Survivor South Africa, you know that Survivor South Africa is awesome. It's so good.
Insanely good Survivor.
Yeah, and it was, for people who watched the International Survivor last year, it was such a breath of fresh air after Ghost Island, and it really, in a way, kind of paved the way for David versus Goliath, because some of the things that made it great were kind of some of the same things that made David and Goliath great.
It was just players who were there to play hard, some of them who were there to play games that made no sense at all to anyone who was thinking logically, and then some of the best gameplay of the entire year. And I'm including Australia, New Zealand, which was, both of those seasons were good seasons of Survivor, but this was the peak.
They played so hard. I mean, okay, so also a ground rule. If for people who are watching who didn't see Survivor South Africa last year, we're going to spoil the hell out of it.
Oh, and yeah.
Probably we might spoil the other international seasons either. Maybe.
Maybe, because I stand one of those winners really very, very hard, as many of us from the around the Rob Has a Podcast world do. There's one winner who I love with all my heart. Yeah.
So as I was thinking about it this morning, what I realized, one of the things that made last season of Survivor South Africa so great was that, as you said, these are 2019 players. They are mostly strategists, not good strategists, but mostly strategists, mostly playing the game hard. But the format of the game was kind of, I would say, China Tocantins-esque. I mean, you had some things like voting out a juror or an idol at a challenge, stuff like that. But the basic gameplay was kind of that.
Yeah, it was a very basic starting tribe. Although they did start with 2, swap to 3. Which is a tenet of modern Survivor. It's something we see all the time. And it was just, it was a lot of people who it's important to note they had a break, like Australia, they had a break of a few years between the first set and then a new production team took over for the new seasons.
Right.
From last season onwards.
I believe last season was actually season 6. But it was the first season that was kind of prominent outside of South Africa.
And I believe the early ones were sort of over 5 years ago, around then, when it was last on.
So they stockpiled all the crazy people.
A lot of people who really wanted to play Survivor.
Yeah.
And it's similar to the. So I'm really hopeful with, like Australia, where we had a number of years off, a lot of super fans. I'm really, really hopeful that what we'll get now is that second season peak, like we got in Australia, where people maybe have got a better sense. The I don't want to say casuals, but the non-super fans playing have a better sense of how to play the game, and hopefully we're going to get some big characters and some big play.
I was looking at the cast from last season as I was prepping for this, and it was 18 superstars. Maybe I mean, like Stacey Lee, okay, maybe not, but like 16 of 18, I would say, were just phenomenal.
Stacey Lee paved the way to give us the game we needed.
Well, and that's the thing, that even though they had these super, hard players, hardcore strategists, at the end, you had literally the two least likely people were the finalists.
Oh, yeah. And for some of us to massively spoil it, one discussion we have, especially pre the last two seasons of American Survivor that we've had on, around Purple Rock a lot, is the how is American Survivor not casting lesbians? And we got,
no kidding, right?
Not that obviously it's not talked about on the show, but I've seen Jean. I've seen her Instagram. She dresses exactly like me. Her hair is just like me. She is a 5'1" lesbian with big boobs, and that's me. And I felt very seen. I hopefully would have been a slightly better player than her, but that's probably not true. So they cast a few people who you just don't get, or you didn't get on American Survivor, and that was really nice.
Well, and like I said, the two finalists, Jean and Tom, were not only the least likely to make it to the end, but the show just clowned on them like relentlessly, and yet there they were at the end, which is another thing that American Survivor won't do.
Oh, we're gonna get you. You cannot read the edit in South Africa. You just can't read it. There is no way to tell. I was convinced Annalise was winning. Convinced until she came third.
Me too. Even though her final tribal was so disastrous, I thought there is absolutely no way they're going to give the money to Tom until they did. And
I was convinced Annalise.
I have to say, on a rewatch, when I watched South Africa the first time, I thought, ooh, Tom's kind of a problematic winner. But then on the rewatch, he looks, to be totally frank about it, he looks like a racist rancher. And he behaves like a racist rancher. But actually, there was none of that. And then I looked into it further, and I think he is involved in some kind of anti-poaching.
He runs an anti-poaching network in South Africa, which means he works, if you know much about South Africa, he works very closely with a lot of black people, because a lot of not the rangers, but a lot of the spotters and the everyday staff. I myself am half South African. Both my mum's parents were born in South Africa. I've spent a bit of time there, so not a huge amount. I couldn't call myself an expert, but out in those sorts of areas, usually the relationships are between the whites and the blacks are not good at all. Mm-hmm. But Tom never showed any part of that in the game.
I mean, he did get into shouting matches with Palesa and PK and pretty much every black person on the cast. But then on a rewatch, I realized, oh, he got into a shouting match with everybody.
Yeah, he got into shouting matches with everybody. So that's how I read it. That's just his personality. I don't think he's a particularly bad guy.
Yeah. I don't think this is. I must have read this somewhere. I don't think this is original with me, but somebody said that Tom winning last season was as close as we're going to get to Homer Simpson winning Survivor.
That's a good call. Yeah.
Okay, but we should move on to 2018 Island of Secrets. So how do people? First of all, if you don't live in South Africa, how do you watch Survivor South Africa?
I watched it through a secret YouTube someone out in the world of Twitter, of Survivor Twitter, sent me when it had been, we found out that it was on, because I literally found out it existed on, I think, 3 days after the first episode, when international Survivor Twitter was going insane about it.
I think I jumped in about episode 3.
And a very nice, if anyone knows of Pia, the European Survivor fan from Finland, I DM'd her and she sent me this YouTube playlist. But it is possible to watch it on some of the usual streaming sites that a lot of the international Survivor fans use. So hopefully there will be more than opportunity this year to watch it.
Yeah, there is also, if you dare go onto Reddit, there's a Survivor South Africa subreddit where someone will give you the link if you DM them, which I thought was crazy. I thought that was like crazy subterfuge, but you never know how hard they.
If you post that link, you don't know if someone else out there.
Yeah, you don't want to blow people.
The answer to how can I watch Survivor South Africa is you can DM me or ASD. Yeah. And we will give you. We will be out there looking for it, and we will desperately try and give it to anyone who wants it.
Yeah, and by the way, if anybody is interested in watching last season, now that we've completely blown it. Hey there, this is Assistant Dragon Slayer in the future. At this point in the conversation, Kemper and I were lamenting the fact that you can't find a complete set of last season's episodes anywhere on the internet. But later on, I did, in fact, find them. So I will post a link to the show notes, and we'll move on.
Yeah, we will endeavour to give everyone links if they ask. And I believe also, if you are, not to shout out a different podcast, but if you are involved in the Rob Has a Podcast world, I believe the patron group there often shares links as well. But again, It's all very secret.
Yeah.
That's the whole how do you watch Amazing Race Canada is through links there. But
yeah, and I think you can eventually, I think episodes eventually trickle on to Daily Motion, which is, the sketchier YouTube.
Yes, that is where I watch a lot of my Survivor.
Yeah.
And those of us who are streaming American Survivor, we do know where all of the streaming sites are. Adblock.
But really getting the link to the unlisted YouTube playlist is really the way you get the episodes the fastest. So the episodes are on Thursday this season, I believe, which means that they'll show up in America on Friday. Friday afternoon on the West Coast, maybe. Something like that.
I'm finally winning because South Africa doesn't have a time difference from London. So if I can get a VP, if I can figure out how to watch it live, I may well do that this season.
Ooh. That's the funny thing is that I would definitely, if they put Survivor South Africa on iTunes, I would gladly pay for it.
Yeah, I probably would too.
Okay, so we already talked about a couple things that make Survivor South Africa different from the U.S. version. And I have to say that production value-wise, it's very, very on a par with the U.S. version.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't mess with the mechanics as much as Australian Survivor, for example. It's really, really in the casting. Last year's cast was phenomenal. And one thing that I noticed, especially on the rewatch, is that I noticed that the cast was skewed older, for sure, older than a typical Survivor cast. And I actually ran the numbers yesterday, and the average age last season was, I believe, 34, and as opposed to the average age for Ghost Island, which to be fair was a younger than usual cast. The average age for Ghost Island was 28. So that's a big difference in life experience.
And obviously to get down to that sort of level, you have a number of quite young castaways as well. When you think about, there were some older, not old people, but there were a few more people in their 40s on Ghost Island than you always see.
Right. If your youngest player is 19, to get the average from 34 to 28 means
it's a big,
the median The median is quite low also.
Yeah. And we always talk about the sort of what's the best age to play Survivor. And there is this sort of, I think, not to spoil it, but I think this cast has a large number of people who are banging the completely perfect age for a Survivor game.
We'll get there. We're going to get there. Okay, so the other thing that, the other obvious difference to me is Nico, the host. Do you have any thoughts about Nico?
He's so lovely. He's just got a nice voice, and he's really handsome, and he's kind of jovial in a way that Jeff has lost, and friendly like an early season Probst.
Yeah.
Sort of more of a buddy. Similar sort of. And to get deep into the international Survivor weeds again, he's like quite a good mix between Jonathan LaPaglia on Australia, who's quite stern and tries to sort of separate himself from the castaways, and Matt on New Zealand, who seemed to have no ability not to act like he was one of them. So he's the perfect middle ground of like, he's everyone's mate. He'll take the mick, but he is the host, and he will keep control.
My take is that he is 1/3 Probst, 1/3 George Clooney, and 1/3 Troy McClure. That's my take.
He is a very handsome man, if that is what you are into. So there is that as well.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. Let's start talking about the upcoming season. Survivor South Africa, Island of Secrets. What could that possibly mean?
Oh, it could mean anything. Could it, it could be a Ghost Island style. Fingers crossed it's not. It could be a third island with an entire, almost, you could imagine, my perfect scenario would be 2 tribes of 8 to start with a spare tribe sitting out there out of the game.
That's another thing we should mention, is that there are 21 people in this cast. So, I mean, there could be a Fiji-like situation, possibly, but I think it's much more likely that it's going to be 3 starting tribes of 7, right?
Yeah, much more likely. It's just how does it get set up? There's that question, but 7's a number we've never seen before as a tribe starting in Survivor.
And it's 11 men and 10 women, so presumably it would be 4-4-3 with 4 men, 3 men.
Yeah. And then if you're those women, you just want to throw that first challenge and vote out a man.
That's right. So the logo for the season has kind of like your standard stuff in the top half, and in the bottom half there are 2 keys and 2 octopuses reaching out for those keys. So my guess is that there are octopuses on the Island of Secrets giving advice to people who get voted onto the Island of Secrets.
So it's like an Extinction Island style with a coach, not coach himself, not your coach, but a coach.
Yes.
Of some variety, a Cochrane on a boat style.
There we go. Yes.
That I could see that. Who, if we did that, who would your perfect octopi be?
I don't want to say anything creepy. You know what my answer is, but I'm going to have to.
I would personally go for Verna and not Katinka. Why did I go for Katinka? I meant Annalise. Verna and Annalise. Those were the 2 best players of the last season. 2 social game players, strategists people who played different phases of a game, they could be very interesting.
Yeah.
And they are both good looking.
Just for the sake of choosing others, Martinez would be such
Oh, ace.
One day with Martinez would probably be just enough. Any more and it would drive me insane.
Frankly, that is how you make people quit the Island of Extinction. It's not Reem, it's Martinez.
That's right. That's what it is. That's what it is. They've got Martinez on one island and Tony on the other island, and they're trying to make people quit.
Yeah, that would work.
Okay.
That'd be great.
All right, we should move on to the cast. So the way that the Mnet, the network that broadcasts Survivor South Africa, has been incredibly tight-lipped about this cast, but they have apparently posted billboards around South Africa with 8 of the 21 castaways. And so we have photos of those 8, and then like very basic descriptions of the other 21 minus 8 people.
Yeah, we have 8 very stylized photos of people in marginally blue water. All of them looking at their most attractive.
Well, when we were talking offline, you expressed some concern that this was much more of a reality TV cast, and I pointed out that they picked of the 21 people, they picked the 8 that are going to go on a billboard, so it's going to skew towards people who pop from a billboard. So I'm not ready to conclude that the casting is significantly different than last season.
No, and it must also be noted that last season was also a very attractive cast. So we put maybe, I suppose if you are a woman of a certain age, Tom might do it for you as well.
Well, I was standing for Palesa.
Oh, what a absolutely fantastic castaway. If they get to an All-Stars, absolute lock.
She's in the first. Yeah, her and Werner are like automatics.
So the first castaway we meet on the billboards is Steffi Brink, who is a former Mrs. Cape Town. Nope, that's
Leanne.
That's an entirely different person.
Steffi is Miss Namibia 2015.
Yes. So she is a very beautiful woman in her 27. She looks very athletic. She says
I'm getting very, very. And I should stipulate that all we're going off of is 2 sentences about each person and photographs for only 8 of them. So we have basically no idea.
Yeah, but this is a shot in the dark.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting a Stephanie LaGrossa vibe from her. Definitely.
Yes, there is a physicality. She looks like she is physically fit, like she spends a lot of time outside, and I don't know how she says in the 2 sentences we get about her. That she stopped training ahead of Survivor to cut down on her muscle mass so that she would look less athletic. We all know that trying to look less athletic works for about 2 minutes into the first immunity challenge when competitiveness takes over.
Right.
And everyone learns that you're either Aussie or you're Chet. Or somewhere in the middle, I suppose. But one of those 2.
Speaking of muscle mass, the next person on our billboard is Rocco van Rooyen.
Rocco van Rooyen.
Yes.
Yes.
Extraordinarily handsome and muscular.
An Olympian.
Yes, that's right. Do you know what event?
Javelin, I believe.
Oh, okay. Speaking of weapons, another thing to note in the billboard that they're all standing like chest deep in the water, and they're all holding these very, very scary looking weapons.
Very tribal looking, sort of. I mean, they're a little bit like Samoa made. I don't know if you know what hurling is. It's an Irish sport.
Like what I did in college.
No, it's like a cross between hockey and I suppose a bit of rugby. It's a Gaelic sport.
Okay.
And they have sticks quite like that to allow them to play with the ball. But yeah, very big weapons.
Like lacrosse?
A bit like lacrosse, but no nets. But yeah, okay. Rocco
he's a unit.
He's a unit, yeah. He is a very fit man. If he does javelin, it means he's over 6 foot tall. You're going to assume that although he only came 24th at the Olympics.
Oh, well, he sucks.
In javelin. Yeah, obviously. Terrible. But he just screams merge boot, doesn't he?
Yep.
He screams.
Or on Survivor South Africa, maybe he gets blindsided in episode 1.
Either that, or he's got a little bit of a romance. You know, he's going to have some form of showmance.
Ah.
I believe Steffi. I actually don't know. I thought Steffi was married, but I realised that is again another contestant that I have read about. So let's move on.
Okay.
Next up, we have. Oh, I've given myself the hard one. We have Sepai Mashugane. That's who I have next.
Yes.
So I'm going to go with Sepai.
Yeah.
Mashugane.
Okay.
She's at 40. She is the second oldest woman and third oldest castaway this season, which really is skewing younger by a long way. What do you think of Sepe? She
looks, her bio says she's a strong, no-nonsense single mother, blah, 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 blah. But then it talks about her motorcycle hobby, taking road trips on her Harley. So
a passion for teaching women about freedom of riding a Harley Davidson.
Yeah. She's an all-rounder.
She could I wonder if she's got an all women's alliance brewing. That's her thought. If she's a bit too vocal, you know what that can do.
Yep. Okay, so I believe the oldest woman, is Tanya Copeland.
Yes, yeah, the oldest woman in the cast and second oldest castaway.
Yeah, 51, immigration consultant, a self-proclaimed hedonist, an avid rock climber.
She is a chess player.
Mm-hmm.
She's represented her province, which is like your state.
Yeah.
She
She smokes.
Yeah, that's going to be good.
Yeah.
That's always good for a castaway. The worry I have, obviously, as I always do with older women, is does she become the easy first boot, or does she overplay? Chess players on Survivor tend to overplay a little bit, and then we end up in trouble.
Yeah.
She has raised several kids.
There's an actress that she reminds me of, Melissa Leo. It slipped my mind for a minute, but yeah.
Madam
Melissa Leo.
Yes, yeah, I see it.
Okay.
She wants to be part of what she calls Team Underdog.
Okay.
So she could get herself in trouble if there's a power structure, which is never good either.
Okay. So, we've got more extraordinarily handsome men. Why don't you go ahead?
Nathan Castle, a A very attractive man, although not as toned as I was expecting, with a huge full tribal sleeve. South Sea Island tribal, I should say, not an African tribal sleeve.
Right.
He is He's another young man who looks like he's a graphic production studio director.
Yeah, but he got a law degree from the University of Western Cape, so, who knows?
I believe it's the university my grandfather went to.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
And he's a part-time personal trainer, so, law school, personal trainer, as you do.
Yeah, he's apparently a germaphobe, though, so...
Oh, great.
Yeah, that always works well. A confident, sociable all-rounder. So he's one to watch, but he also screams merge boots. So
yeah.
He just looks like the kind of guy a tribe will ride through challenges, and then maybe he could be in trouble once the game really starts at merge.
Yeah. Next is 28-year-old Robert Bentelli. Was I going to pronounce that?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, he is. The blurb says that he is a Trevor Noah lookalike, but I think he looks more like a young Derek Jeter myself. Half Austrian, half Zulu.
To me, he has a hint of the Jesse Williams from Grey's Anatomy to him.
Okay, all right.
Chiseled jaw, bright blue eyes, handsome again.
I think the running theme here is that for the thirsty Purple Rock podcasters, there's lots to thirst for in
this season. Could be very good for us.
He is half Austrian, half Zulu, and he identifies as Zulu. So for what that's worth. And the final one that we know of visually is sales consultant Felix Godlow, 29 years old.
He's incredibly interesting to me, Felix, being that he's a Sozo family. Mm-hmm. I've butchered that, but because of his sports scholarship, he went to an Afrikaner high school, meaning that he will be able to bridge gaps, I would imagine, more easily. He has an Afrikaans wife. Mm-hmm. He's just had a baby. He's went on a sports scholarship. He is played rugby to a serious level, having played both at university and for a club. Well, so he's a big man, but
he's a little on the pudgy side from this photograph, like he's an athlete approaching retirement.
That is quite typical of certain positions in rugby.
Okay.
A bit wider and a bit more heft than muscle.
Right.
But I think that the sort of the meeting of two worlds in this game may be quite good for him, especially in a cast that is reasonably white. That ability to work with everyone might be very helpful for him.
Mm-hmm.
That, and I imagine he is extremely strong.
Yeah, he definitely. He looks like a strong dude. So I think what I'm getting from these people, at least the 8 on the billboard, is that, I mean, like I said, they chose people who are gonna catch your eye from the billboard, but they all, I mean, none of them.
We have
seem one. They all seem quite three-dimensional. Three-dimensional people. We are missing
one from the billboards.
Oh, yes.
Leanne Van Reenen, who is she is a bit harder to read this because we've got a lot more about her. She's a mother of 2. She was Mrs. Cape Town 2018. And she's hell-bent on tearing up stereotypical beauty queen labels. And between her and Steffi, it's quite interesting that we've got two.
Mm-hmm.
That we've got two beauty queens, but she also does a huge amount of humanitarian work as well, which is a different side to things. Planning on playing almost a purely social game, it looks like.
Hey, it's future assistant Dragon Slayer again. At this point, Kemper and I talk about the non-Billboard 13 castaways, and the only source of information on those people is one article in a newspaper or magazine called The South African that somehow got a hold of the list of all the castaways. And it's really bare bones. It's name, age, occupation, and a couple really unhelpful sentences. So Kemper and I really didn't bring a ton of insight to this to this part. And since the podcast is running a little bit long, I just will skip ahead. We did make winner picks, and our winner picks are both from the non-Billboard 13. Kemper picked Meryl Zolkovich, and I'm really guessing there. She is a 31-year-old Pilates instructor from Centurion, and it's a wild-ass guess on Kemper's part. My winner pick is Mabatlako Molefe, a 28-year-old investment analyst from Cape Town. And I'm picking her as my winner because her first name is spelled Mmabatlokoa, and ain't nobody gonna write that down on the parchment. So, just to wrap up, if for some reason you didn't watch last year's Survivor South Africa and you've listened for 45 minutes or watched for 45 minutes, Survivor South Africa 2018 was fabulous. It was so good.
So good.
But it really all comes down to the cast. So fingers crossed that they can, make lightning strike twice.
I think the last few years of Survivor, both international and US, have proved that you can do whatever you want with your gimmick. You can do anything you want with twists, but when it comes down to it, it's cast. To me, it's no surprise that the greatest season of Survivor doesn't even have a tribe swap. True. That is the best cast they've ever put together. It's all superstars. If you cast well, everything will go well.
Yep.
And I am pumped. I'm hyped. I want to say turnt, but I don't think I should. I'm a bit too old for that. But yeah, I'm really excited for this season.
Yeah. Yeah, and perfect. And like I said before, perfect timing. It starts the day after the finale.
It seems if it's scheduled properly, it will finish right in time to dive into Australia. It's going to be a great summer of international Survivor.
Okay.
Rest in peace, New Zealand.
Yeah. Yes. As soon as they figured it out, they gave up.
It's because Lisa was the perfect winner, and they could never go further than that.
Yeah, fair. Okay, so we should wrap this up. Let's see, what do they say at the end? You can find us at purplerocksurvivor.com, on Twitter at purplerocksurvivor, which is mostly John. I think I'm assistant DS, but I've forgotten. And you are?
You've got both the website and the Twitter wrong. It's purplerockpodcast.com, Purple Rock Podcast, Purple Rock Pod on Twitter, which is mostly John. I am Kemperboyd _ all one word on Twitter. You can find me recapping The Amazing Race with Blurry Denzel, the second most good-looking combo of people doing any recapping after